Hello class, how are you? So, today we are going to start chapter 6, Revolt of 1857-58. In this chapter you will study about British rule 1757 to 1857, Revolt of 1857, causes of the revolt. Let's first begin with British rule 1757 to 1857. After its victory in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, the East India Company got control over Bengal and it started making its stronghold in Bombay and Madras also. Their favorable acts and policies helped them establish their rule in all over India. Their wrong policies helped in the declination of Indian economy. All sections of society were badly exploited. This created extreme dissatisfaction against the British. As a result, many uprisals took place one by one and that finally took turn in form of the revolt of 1857. By the mid-19th century, the British had established themselves as the supreme power in India. A major part of India was under British rule. Other areas were also under the indirect control of British. The Mughal Empire existed only in the name. The last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar had neither power nor territory. The Britishers also created a sense of fear, suspicion and resentment among the rulers of the Indian states. Revolt of 1857. The Revolt of 1857 was the landmark in the history of India's struggle for freedom. It started on May 10, 1857 with a mutiny of soldiers in the Meerut cantonment. The revolutionary soldiers marched towards Delhi on May 11, 1857. Delhi was a mute witness to a band of sepoys crossing over the Jamuna and entering the Red Fort. They appealed to the aged Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, emperor without an authority, to take over the leadership of the revolt. He was proclaimed the Shahenshah-e Hindustan. The sepoys captured the city of Delhi, killed many Englishmen and ransacked many public offices. Though the revolt was started by the Indian soldiers in the service of the East India Company, it soon spread to all parts of the country. All sections of society like farmers, artisans, soldiers, educated Indians and many rulers participated jointly to fight against the British rule bravely. Hindus and Muslims also came together to uproot the foreign domination. This event was called the Sepoy Mutiny by the British, but Indian historians call it the First War of Independence, as it was the first time that different sections of Indian society united and fought as one nation to throw off the shackles of foreign domination. This is the image of Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Causes of the revolt. Political cause. The expansionist policies and intentions of the British created a sense of fear, suspicion and resentment among the rulers of Indian states. The revolt was the outcome of the widespread resentment that had been boiling against the British for a long time. Lord Dalhousie's policy of doctrine of lapse was resented by the ruling classes because it curbed their rights of adoption. Annexation of Jhansi, Satara and Nagpur under the doctrine created great resentment. The state of Awadh was also annexed under the doctrine of lapse. Those kingdoms where the kings did not have natural heir would be taken over by the British after the demise of the king. They were not allowed to adopt heir to their throne. The British signed many treaties with the kings and nawabs but violated them as per their conveniences. India lost all the trust in the British. Awadh had been an ally of the East India Company for nearly a century, but it was annexed on the plea that the government was not functioning properly. This shocked the Nawab and the other rulers. Do you know? Lord Dalhousie was appointed Governor General of India in 1848. The 8 years of his rule was the greatest period for the British in India. The annexation of Awadh 1856 was seen as an act of betrayal and backstabbing by the British. Disrespect shown by the British to the last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah angered people. All the high posts were reserved for the British. In the army, the highest post which an Indian could get was that of Subedar at a rupees 60 or 70 per month. The highest post in the civil services for which an Indian could qualify was that of a Sadar Amin, who was paid rupees 500 a month. The educated Indians were dissatisfied as they have hoped to get more employment in government jobs. Do you know Begum Hazrat Mahal was not only a clever strategist but also fought on the battlefield. Economic cause. The primary motive of the political domination of India by the British was its economic exploitation. The British utilized their political power for exploiting the economic resources and wealth of India for the benefit of British, and in the process created widespread discontentment. The traders' interest of the British created destruction of cottage industries. The revenue policy of the British destroyed the self-sufficient village economy with its emphasis on commercialization of agriculture. The peasants, weavers, and craftsmen were forced to work according to the desires of the servants of the company, and in return they were paid very little remuneration. Machine-made products from England flooded the Indian markets and created unemployment among artisans and craftsmen. This is the map of India in 1857. The ruination of the Indian industry increased pressure on agriculture, which led to the further deterioration of the condition of peasants and general people. The peasants were forced to grow only those crops that the British industries required. Whenever the princely states were annexed, the British got rent-free land and huge amount of money. The common people faced unemployment and poverty when Awadh was occupied by the British. Nawab's officials were dismissed and his army was disbanded. About 60,000 professional soldiers lost their livelihood. Social and religious causes. The social reforms by the British were considered an interference in the customs and traditions of Indians. Many Indians opposed the introduction of Western education and the conversion of Indians to Christianity. The Charter Act of 1813 had allowed the missionaries to enter India. The Hindu law of property was changed to enable a Christian convert to receive his share of ancestral property. Certain laws passed by the company's government, including social legislation like the abolition of sati, female infanticide, and encouragement of widow remarriage, were considered as unnecessary interference by the British in the social customs of the Indian society. This is the image of the sepoys. The feelings of the people were hurt further by the taxes that were imposed upon the land on which temples and mosques were built. A law passed in 1850 allowed a Christian convert support to this mass fear. The belief that their religion was under threat united all sections of society against the British. The spread of railways created further fear among the poor and illiterate sections of the society that they would lose their caste. Indians were not allowed to travel in first-class train compartments. The conservative Indians were alarmed by the rapid spread of Western culture and English education in India. Moreover, the British looked down upon the Indians and followed a policy of racial discrimination. They considered themselves as superiors. They advocated a judicial system based on the principle of equality, but in actually it was biased. Rumors created panic. One such rumor was that the whole Indian population would lose their caste, as the British had sent cartloads of bone dust which was mixed with flour and sweets that were sold in the market. Military cause. The sepoys had helped the British to establish their empire in India, but instead of giving reward or promotion, they were humiliated by the British. There was a great discrimination between the British and the Indian soldiers. The highest pay given to an Indian sepoy as Subedar was less than the minimum pay of a European recruit. The Act of 1856 made it compulsory for new recruits to serve overseas. It hurt the feeling of the soldier, as they believed that the overseas travel led to the loss of caste. The foreign service allowance or bhatta which the sepoy got when they were sent to fight outside the country was discontinued. Immediate cause? There was widespread discontentment against the British rule. By 1857, the stage was set for a massive outbreak. Only a spark was needed to set the country ablaze. A rifle cartridge provided that spark. The cartridge of new Enfield rifle had a greased paper cover which had to be bitten off before the cartridge was loaded into the rifle. It was said that the grease was composed of beef and pig fat. Both the Hindus and Muslims refused to use them. On March 29, 1857, at Barakpur near Calcutta, Mangal Pandey, a young Indian sepoy from the Bengal regiment, refused to use the greased cartridge and shot down his sergeant. He was arrested, tried and executed. When this news spread, many sepoys started the revolt. Events and places of revolt. Many places were affected due to the revolt. Main places of revolt were Jhansi. Rani Lakshmi Bai, one of the important rulers who revolted against the British as the British did not accept her adopted son as the ruler as per doctrine of lapse policy. She joined with Tatya Tope and together captured Gwalior. Her courage was appreciated by the British commander also. She died in 1858 while fighting with British. This is the image of Rani Lakshmi Bai. In these images you can see Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Ajimullah Khan. Kanpur. Nana Sahib called himself as the Peshwa and led the troops at Kanpur. Tatya Tope and Ajimullah supported him. When British captured Kanpur, he fled to Nepal. Delhi. The soldier of Meerut made the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar the leader of the revolt. Sir John Lawrence went a contingent and he was deported to Rangoon and his son were shot dead. This brought the end of the Mughal Empire in India. This is the image of Bahadur Shah Zafar. Awadh. Begum Hazrat Mahal made her minor son the Nawab of Awadh. She was held by the sepoys, peasants and talukdars. The British army, instead of fighting, took the refuge in a building near Gomti River. The sepoys, the building to fire Henry Lawrence, was also killed in the fire. This is the image of Begum Hazrat Mahal and this is the image of Lord Canning. The building was under the control of the sepoy for 8 months, but after 8 months, Colin Campbell marched with the troops and captured Awadh with the help of the Gurkhas. In the revolt, the rebels looted the treasury, burnt the military barracks. Lord Canning, the then Governor General, suppressed the revolt with the help of the commander. This was a tough time for the British, but they killed people ruthlessly and used brutal method. The control of Delhi and imprisonment of Bahadur Shah Zafar by the British broke the backbone of the mutiny. Lucknow was recaptured in 1858. Rani Lakshmi Bai was killed in the battle and Tatya Tope was hanged to death. Thus ended the episode of the historic revolt. Causes of the revolt. In this Indian map, you can see the main centers of the revolt of 1857. Causes of the revolt. There are plenty of reasons for the failure of the revolt, despite the efforts taken by the sepoys. The uprising had been planned for months, but it broke out before the appointed date. It did not go according to the plan as the revolutionaries failed to spread it beyond central India and Delhi. The Indian leaders were not organized and trained. There was lack of unity among the rebels. The idea of nationalism had not yet developed in the real sense, and there was a lack of common ideology. The sepoys of Bengal wanted to revive the glory of the Mughals, while Nana Sahib and Tatya Tope tried to re-establish the Maratha power. Lakshmi Bai fought for her lost kingdom. The Sikhs, the Nizams and the Sindhiyas were unaffected by the revolt, and the Gurkhas not only remained loyal to the British, but the British in suppressing the mutiny. The educated Indians remained loyal to British due to their selfish intentions. The rebels could not match the sophisticated and modern weapons and the disciplined army of the British. An organized communication system and military strategies led to the British victory. The leadership of the revolt was neither strong nor gave direction to the rebels. The Indian rulers fought to liberate their own territories and did not think about the freedom of the whole country. Moreover, the British got timely help from the government of Britain. Results of the revolt. The East India Company's rule in India came to an end with Queen Victoria's proclamation of November 1858. She assumed the title of the Empress of India. The British Crown took over the administration of India. This is the image of Queen Victoria. A Secretary of State for Indian Affairs was appointed to look after the government of India with the help of a council. The Governor General was given the title of Viceroy. The representative of the British Crown, according to the proclamation, the Indian princes were given assurance that no further annexations will be made by the British. There would be no interference in the social and religious practices of the people. They were also given the assurance that high posts will be given to them without any discrimination. A general pardon was given to all rebels, even for those who killed for the British people. British authority in India was fully re-established, but the revolt proved to be the first great struggle for freedom. It became a source of inspiration for the later freedom struggle, and its heroes became household names in the country. The revolt brought people closer and aroused the patriotic feelings among Indians. Thus, history of India left a mark even though it was not successful. It paved the way for nationalism. Do you know, Kunwar Singh, the 80-year-old landlord of Jagdishpur, was the most outstanding military leader of the revolt in western Bihar. This is the image of Veer Kunwar Singh. Summing up, the revolt of 1857 was the landmark in the history of India's struggle for freedom. It started on May 10, 1857 with the mutiny of soldiers in the Meerut cantonment. The revolt was the outcome of the widespread resentment that had been boiling against the British for a long time. The primary motive of the political domination of India by the British was its economic exploitation. The social reforms by the British were considered an interference in the customs and traditions of Indians. Thank you, class. Let's meet in the next chapter.